You've heard it once, you've heard it a million times. John means business. Let's talk about him and more next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Thursday, May 6th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Chris Towers and John Means through the fourth no-hitter of the MLB season, the first in 30 years for the Baltimore Orioles. Chris, 12 strikeouts, no-hit the Seattle Mariners. What did you see from John Means, and how far is he moving up your rankings?
Yeah, I mean, what we saw from John Means was mostly what we've seen from him anytime he's been going well, which is that the changeup was just, unhittable. He had 14 swinging strikes with it. It's one of the best pitches in baseball. And even, before he broke out in 2020, the changeup was his bread and butter. I mean, he was an all-star in either 2018 or 2019. He wasn't all that good, but he did have a great changeup. And now he's throwing, closer to the mid-90s. And so that's making everything else play up, and including the changeup. So I think he's clearly established that last year was a legitimate breakout. I think he's, I don't know if he's made another leap yet, but I did move him up to SP40, which feels a little bit low, I'll admit. But the guys right ahead of him, Eduardo Rodriguez, Carlos Rodon, Julio Urias, I mean, those guys have all been awesome too. So top 40 starting pitcher is really good. He's a must start guy moving forward. And I think you're going to be really happy to have him on your team moving forward. Although I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to trying to sell high if somebody thinks he's more like a top 25 starting pitcher.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I have him ranked just inside my top 40. He's SP 34 for me. 3 runs or less in all 7 starts for John Means, a 1.37 ERA at this point. But he's rostered in your league. If you have him, you should feel really good about it. Someone who might actually be available is Robbie Ray, who at the Oakland A's on Wednesday, 6 innings of 3-run ball with 9 strikeouts. Chris, that is 3 straight quality starts for Robbie Ray. 63% rostered. He's in line for 2 starts next week. Is he a must-add?
Yeah, anytime you see somebody doing something like what Robbie Ray is, 0 walks in his last 3 starts, what you want to look up first is, like, has he ever done anything like this? And Robbie Ray has never had a 3-start stretch with 0 walks. He had one with 1 walk back in July and August of 2019. I believe he had 4 walks over the course of 5 games and 1 walk over 3. So it's not necessarily unprecedented. The thing about that was right after that 3rd start where he only had 1 walk, he had a 5.36 ERA the rest of the season. So it's not necessarily indicative of a skill change for Robbie Ray, but we know how good he is when he's on. We know how good he is when he's getting his strikeouts. So yeah, if he's available in any league, I think you should go out and make sure Robbie Ray's on your roster if you can, because even when things aren't great for him, 2019, he wasn't amazing, but he had an ERA, in the low 4s with a ton of strikeouts. There's still value in that. Even if he's, not the ace you might hope he could be someday.
Not only has he gone 3 straight starts without walking anyone, Chris, but he's throwing harder than ever before. He's averaging 95 miles per hour on his fastball. Really like what I've seen from Robbie Ray so far this season. If you have a roster spot available, you should get him on your team. Chris, last question I'll ask you. Should you be selling low on Christian Yelich? Obviously, this is dependent on, what your team looks like, if you really need outfield help, but there's no timetable for Yelich. He has this back injury. It sounds pretty bad. Would you look to sell him for someone like Trent Grisham or Austin Meadows if you can make that happen?
I don't think I would, but I don't feel confident in my answer one way or the other. That's probably selling 60 cents on the dollar based on what we valued those guys for before the season. So it's a question of, 1, how serious do you think the injury is? And 2, do you think Christian Yelich has really, seen a decline in skills, or is it mostly related to the injury? I don't know the answer to either one. My assumption would be that it's mostly related to the injury, but he is currently hurt. We currently really don't have any details. It sounds a little bit like Aaron Judge between the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020, when they were just We don't know what's wrong. We know he's hurt, and it turned out he had a fractured rib. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Yelich, but I would feel more confident knowing what the injury was. That would make me feel a lot more confident in knowing what he's going to be moving forward. Right now, there's a non-zero chance he's nothing the rest of the season if this injury is serious, in which case trading him for Grisham or Meadows would be an obvious win. I wouldn't do that, but I can't tell you not to, I guess.
Let's just wrap up with a few more injury notes. Diego Castillo, closer for the Tampa Bay Rays, was placed on the IL with groin tightness. Left-handed pitcher Jeffrey Springs picked up the save for the Rays on Wednesday. He is 1% rostered in CBS leagues. George Springer placed back on the IL with that right quad strain. Anthony Rendon placed on the IL after he fouled the ball off of his knee on Monday night. Alex Kirilloff, this is why we can't have nice things. He was placed on the IL with a right wrist sprain, and Joey Votto fractured his thumb after getting hit by a pitch. He will miss about a month. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. If you enjoyed the pod, please leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.